7 UI frameworks or libraries in 7 minutes.
Okay, let's go.
The plan is to build a small app and go through some of the most common issues when working on UI. Think here of topics like event handling, app state, or rendering. And by the end of the video, we should figure out which is the best front-end tool in 2023. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first framework on the list is a fan favorite, Svelte. This one gained a lot of traction in the last couple of years for good reason. In this example, I'm using SvelteKit, a meta framework which comes packed with a file system-based router and server-side rendering capabilities. Under the routes directory, I created a page.svelte file where I'm defining two sibling components, a header and a list of books. Svelte uses the single file component approach, so my entire logic, template, and scoped styles are stored under one file. No need for fancy reactivity to trigger dumb updates. I am attaching an event handler called search whenever the input value changes, and the fetch result is simply assigned to the book's value. Whenever this value changes, the UI is auto-updated as well. The DOM will be updated directly, so no need for a virtual DOM or diffing strategies. Svelte uses its own templating language, and we can iterate and render the book list via an each block. I am also defining a header component which will simply render the number of books stored in my favorites list. So we can add books to the list via the books component and render the list count in the header. Books and header are sibling components, and one of the main questions when building UI is what's the best solution to share data between components. In Svelte, we'll do this with the help of a writable store, which can be imported and used in any component. Subscribing to store changes imply unsubscribing as well in order to avoid memory leaks. By using the $sign, the unsubscription will happen automatically. Great, let's jump to the second framework on my list, Angular. Just kidding, I would never use Angular in any project ever again. We'll discuss Qwik, which, coincidentally, is built by the same developer behind AngularJS. So let's start by doing the same thing. In an index.tsx file, I'm defining two sibling components, and then I'll jump right into books.tsx to work on the search functionality. Qwik brings in a new concept called resumability, a better, more efficient alternative to hydration. Efficiency is one of Qwik's main goals, and in a web environment, this can be achieved by employing lazy loading strategies. I'm defining components using this notation. The $sign is important because it helps developers define lazy loading boundaries and help the framework split the code in chunks which can be served to the client only on demand. So, for instance, the search callback will only be loaded when the user starts typing into the input. Internal state is handled via signals. Let's quickly define the header component as well and make sure it is styled correctly using the useStyle special hook. The final issue we have to sort out is sharing data between components. While some frameworks rely on state management solutions, tools like Qwik employ an entity called context to handle data exchange through the application. The Qwik development experience is heavily influenced by React, so let's take a look at it next. React is by far the most popular UI library, and for good reason. Function components, JSX, the context API, the virtual DOM, and hooks are all concepts first pioneered by React. As a quick side note, these days I'm using Vite to set up my React projects, since this is a much leaner approach than the well-known Create React app. We'll go through the implementation quickly, since most of you guys are probably familiar with the library. In the app.tsx file, I'm defining two sibling components and the provider for the app state. In the book.tsx file, I'm getting references to both the context and the internal state, and I'm rendering the list of objects in the DOM with help from JSX. Compared with tools we looked at earlier, React doesn't have a built-in solution to handle scoped styling, but we can achieve this easily via CSS modules. Also, React is almost 10 years old now, and, as you would expect, is dragging after it a lot of heavy functionality which might be considered almost deprecated these days. Regardless of some of its pitfalls in comparison with the likes of Solid, React will still remain a central player in the front-end space moving forward. Next, let's switch gears and look at a different kind of tool. Alpine is a collection of 15 attributes, 6 properties, and 2 methods for composing behavior directly in your markup. Working with it is going to be a bit different than what we've done so far, since it relies on some sort of MVC framework to initially render the markup to the client. Once the HTML is available, I am marking the DOM elements as Alpine enabled via the X tag. State management is a more complex topic in this context, but since I decided to avoid using components and focus on simplicity, we can define both the books and the list of favorites as state. Whenever a key app event is detected, the search books method is called. Note that, as I already mentioned, we are mixing together behavior with markup. This might seem weird at first, but it isn't a novel concept. The likes of Petit Vue are pushing forward the progressive enhancement idea for quite a while now. Of course, you need to find a balance between simplicity and readability. Whenever you feel like your templates are becoming too crowded, Alpine allows you to extract logic in separate JavaScript files as well. Back to the code, we can use tags such as if or for to control the information rendered. When all is said and done, this approach is probably the quickest option and relies on the least amount of code, since we were able to complete the functionality in under 40 lines of HTML code. Next, let's take a look at some of the newer options when it comes to building and rendering client apps. Astro took the world by storm last year when its version 1 was released and quickly proved itself as one of the best solutions to build fast, efficient web apps. It employs server-side rendering strategies and it leverages the islands architecture. As a result, apps built with Astro are HTML first and download only the necessary JavaScript from the server. We have access to a file system-based router as well here. This Astro file will always be rendered on the server, so we need to clearly specify which components have client capabilities as well. We can use Astro's own syntax to define single-page components. I'm separating JavaScript behavior via code fencing. The templating syntax is a superset of HTML, allowing JSX-like expressions. Okay, now we need to add some interactive elements. Think of the search input field and the buttons allowing us to add books to the favorites list. Astro allows you to add an external UI library to implement the islands of interactivity, and in this case, we'll use Preact, a lightweight 3 KB alternative to React. Preact components are similar to the React components, so let's not get into any details. On the other hand, state management is interesting in this setup. Astro is focused on delivering as little JavaScript as possible to the client. Preact is a good fit here with its small size, and we need a similar lightweight solution to manage state as well. As a consequence, we'll use NanoStores, a 300 bytes library. Despite its small size, it is extremely flexible and it is the best fit for our use case. The sixth framework on the list is Vue, a well-established, popular tool closely following Angular in React in the past few years. It comes with a router out of the box, so I'm adding my header and books component in the home Vue file. Next, let's jump into the books.vue component. Just like some other frameworks on this list, Vue uses single file components. Also, starting with its third release, Vue comes packed with the Composition API, which in short allows developers to manage reactivity in a more efficient and friendlier manner than previously. I really appreciate Vue's power to reinvent itself and always adapt the best practices available in the community. To prove this, you could even use JSX for templating purposes, but in this example, I'm using Vue's own templating language, which is also fairly intuitive. We'll be using Pinia to handle state management. This is another great lightweight library provided by the community and makes sharing and mutating data between components extremely straightforward. Also, this is a good time to mention Vite, another great gem from the Vue ecosystem. Vite is a collection of smart front-end tools powering a lot of the libraries I mentioned in this video. We finally got to the last framework on the list. However, before looking at Solid, I'd like to take a second and ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Solid is also heavily inspired by React, so working with it, it's pretty much the same old stuff you should be used to by now. However, Solid is pretty disruptive due to some of its great accomplishments. On one hand, while it is lightweight, it packs a lot of power. On the other hand, it is built on top of a signals architecture, which enables real reactivity in your UI. Finally, just like Svelte, it doesn't rely on a virtual DOM and enjoys great performance metrics. I'm using the well-known function components, signals, and JSX to build my components. However, note that, since Solid is not relying on a virtual DOM to do diffing strategies, you should always use its built-in control flows to do things like conditional rendering or displaying lists of elements. Remember when I said Solid is lightweight, taking only 7 KB minified and gzipped? Well, this doesn't stop it from coming packed with a built-in state management solution, so we'll use this to exchange data between components. Let me know in the comments what is your preferred library these days, and until next time, thank you for watching.